A monster rose from black water. A man stood on the shore with nothing but faith. No sword, no army, just words. You know the Loch Ness monster as a modern mystery. Grainy photos, conspiracy theories, tourist traps selling plush toys. But the first recorded encounter happened 14 centuries ago, and it wasn't a sighting. It was a confrontation. However, this wasn't about proving monsters exist. It was about proving something far more dangerous, that an Irish monk could command the very forces of nature on foreign soil. The year is 565 AD. You're standing in the Scottish Highlands, watching a leather boat cut through mist on the River Ness. Inside sits Columba, an Irish prince turned monk, now in exile. He didn't come here for adventure. He came because he had to. 2 years earlier, Columba started a war. Over a book. He secretly copied a psalter belonging to Saint Finian, and when Finian discovered the theft, he demanded the copy back. Columba refused. The dispute escalated to Ireland's High King, who ruled against Columba with words that became legendary. To every cow its calf, to every book its copy. But Columba wouldn't accept it. He rallied his clan. 3,000 men died in the Battle of Culdraim, all because a monk wanted to keep a manuscript. The guilt crushed him. His confessor gave him penance. Exile. Leave Ireland. Never see its shores again. Convert as many souls as died in that battle. Therefore, Columba sailed to Scotland with 12 companions, settling on the island of Iona. From there, he began his mission among the Picts, the tattooed warriors who ruled northern Britain. The River Ness flows fast and cold. Columba and his monks arrived at its banks on their journey to meet King Brede, the Pictish ruler. They needed to cross, but something was wrong. You would have seen it immediately. A group of Picts burying a man by the water's edge. His body bore terrible wounds. Slashes. Bite marks. The kind that don't come from human hands. Columba approached and asked what happened. The Picts explained through an interpreter. Their friend had been swimming when something attacked him from below. A water beast. Massive. It dragged him under, thrashed him like a rag doll. By the time they pulled him from the river in a small boat, he was already dead. The creature was still out there, somewhere beneath the surface. However, Columba needed to cross. And he had something to prove, not just to the Picts, but to himself. Could faith really move mountains? Could it command monsters? He turned to one of his monks, a man named Lugni Mocumen. Swim across and bring back the boat from the far shore. Imagine your Lugni. Your abbot just asked you to swim in water that killed a man minutes ago. But you don't question him. You strip down and wade in. The water is ice. Your muscles seize. You push forward anyway. Then the current changes. Not from wind. Not from your movement. From something rising below. You hear it before you see it. A massive displacement of water. The Picts on shore start shouting. Columba's monks cry out warnings. You turn your head mid-stroke. The beast erupts from the River Ness. Jaws open. Coming straight for you. But Columba doesn't flinch. He steps toward the water's edge, raises his hand in the sign of the cross, and his voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. Go no further. Touch not the man. Go back at once. The creature stopped, mid-lunge, as if it hit an invisible wall. According to Adomnan, Columba's biographer who recorded this 70 years later, the beast fled in terror. It didn't slowly retreat. It turned and shot back into the depths faster than it had risen. The Picts witnessed the whole thing. These were warriors who worshipped stone and water, who carved symbols into their skin to honor ancient powers. They had never seen anything like this. A foreign holy man commanding their river monster with nothing but words and faith. Lugni completed his swim. He retrieved the boat. He crossed back unharmed. The Picts fell to their knees. They called it a miracle. Many converted on the spot. Therefore, Columba's mission to the Picts accelerated. King Brede granted him an audience. Within decades, Christianity spread through Scotland like wildfire, and Iona became one of medieval Europe's most important monasteries. Here's what you need to understand. Adomnan wrote the life of Saint Columba around 697 AD. He was the 9th abbot of Iona, 2 generations removed from the event. His book was hagiography, religious propaganda designed to prove Columba's sainthood. But Adomnan had access to oral traditions, possibly even written records from Columba's time. He was a meticulous historian for his era. When he describes the water beast in the River Ness, not Loch Ness itself, but the river, he's specific. He uses the Latin aquatilus bestia, which means water beast or water monster. However, This wasn't written to prove monsters exist. It was written to prove Columba's power. The monster is merely the obstacle God places in the saint's path to demonstrate divine authority. Yet the details are oddly concrete. The fresh corpse, the bite marks, the witnesses, the specific location. These aren't the vague dragon encounters common in medieval literature. This feels grounded in something. The Highlands in 565 AD were not the romantic landscape you imagine from movies. They were dangerous, wild. The Picts practiced a form of Christianity mixed with older beliefs, stone circles, sacred wells, spirits in every river and loch. Water monsters were part of that worldview. Celtic mythology is filled with them. The Each-Witch, the water horse that drowns travelers, the Nuchlavi, a skinless demon that rises from the sea, the biased Bulak, a creature haunting lonely passes. Therefore, when Columba encountered something in the River Ness, he wasn't dealing with a zoological mystery. He was confronting the spiritual landscape of the people he came to convert. Whether the beast was real, imagined, or exaggerated doesn't matter. What matters is that the Picts believed it was real, and Columba proved his god was stronger than their water spirits. That's the power move. You're probably wondering, why do we call it the Loch Ness monster if Columba encountered it in the river? Because the River Ness flows directly from Loch Ness. They're connected. Same water system. And in Pictish belief, a creature that inhabited the loch would absolutely travel through the river. But here's the twist. Columba's encounter predates the modern Nessie legend by 14 centuries. The monster we know today, the one from grainy photos and hoaxes, only emerged in the 1930s after a road was built along the loch's shore. Suddenly, hundreds of people claimed sightings. Newspapers ran wild. The legend exploded. However, Adamnan's account suggests something lived in these waters long before tabloids and tourism. Whether it was a large fish, a sturgeon, a seal that swam upriver, or simply a story the Picts told to keep people from swimming in dangerous currents, we'll never know. What we do know is this: Columba used it. He turned a local fear into a demonstration of faith. And it worked. Columba died on Iona in 597 AD at the age of 76. By then, he had founded dozens of monasteries, converted thousands, established a network of learning and art that would preserve Western knowledge through the Dark Ages. The Book of Kells, one of humanity's greatest illuminated manuscripts, was created by Columba's successors at Iona. His monastery became a pilgrimage site. Kings were buried on its shores, all because a monk once stood on the banks of the River Ness and commanded a monster to stop. Therefore, when you visit the Highlands today, when you stand by Loch Ness and scan the water for shadows, remember, you're not looking for a dinosaur. You're looking at the battleground where Christianity and ancient Celtic belief clashed, where one man's faith became legend, where the first recorded monster encounter wasn't about fear, it was about power. You came here thinking you knew the Loch Ness monster story. Tourist trap. Modern myth. But now you know the truth. The first sighting wasn't a sighting at all. It was a confrontation between a guilt-ridden monk seeking redemption and a creature that represented everything he came to conquer. Not with violence, not with armies, with absolute, unshakable faith. That's what makes this story extraordinary. Not the monster, the man who faced it. Saint Columba turned exile into empire, guilt into glory, and a water beast into the most enduring legend of the British Isles. Reality beat expectation. A 6th century Irish prince changed history in the waters of Scotland. And the monster? It never stood a chance.